Hello, hello. Welcome or welcome back to Chats and Chapters. Today we are doing a Q&A, all right? We're doing a Q&A because I'm not quite ready to release the next vlog about writing my zero draft. It's been a little sporadic. It's been a little crazy, and I haven't gotten enough done to where I think it'll be like a satisfying video for you to watch. I think it'll be like cool story, which it is a cool story, but not in that sense. So today we're doing a Q&A. We have 4 questions that I'm going to go over. If you are looking for an editor, if you need an extra pair of eyes on your manuscript, I would love to chat with you about potentially being your editor. You can visit my website, chatsandchaptersllc.com. Check out the link in the description. It'll take you straight there. You fill out an inquiry form. I get in touch. We have a call and we see where you're at, what you're looking for, and if I'm the right fit for you. So if you're interested in getting an editor, let me know. And let's jump into the Q&A. So first question is, when should someone reach out to an editor? I feel like I get this question a lot, or I'll have people reach out and they're like, I'm not really sure if it's too early or too late. So my general idea is you should reach out to an editor when you have an idea of when you want to work with an editor, when you know you want to work with one, and when you have a loose timeline of when that could potentially happen. So not specifically exactly, I need to do this. For some clients, it really is. If you reach out to an editor and you set a date, you put down a deposit, you sign a contract, having that solidified and set in stone can really help push you. You know, I have multiple authors actually that are coming up this fall, and they're like, I have to get Caitlin this manuscript by September 21st. And that gives you a certain amount of words to write every day, how to plan backwards. So it can be really helpful, but when you reach out to an editor, I don't want you to expect that you have to have like all the answers or a perfect timeline, like I said, but once you're thinking you want an editor, you should reach out to one and let them know where you're at in your process, what you're thinking you need, and see what they advise. The important thing to know about hiring an editor is that editors book out months in advance. So I do recommend reaching out and not thinking that you'll fill out the inquiry form and then they'll be able to start next week or next month. If you want to work with me this summer, I can take on one more project in July and that's it. And then I'm pretty much booked for the rest of the year. So if you want to work with me in 2027, that would be great. But you definitely want to reach out to editors in advance, see their process, what is their turnaround time. If you already have a release date in mind, you want to take that into account if that's possible. Times when you reach out to an editor, if you need to go through every process, if you need a developmental, if you need a line edit and potentially a copy edit and a proofread, then you're going to need more time between when you first reach out to them and when you want to publish. So keep that in mind. I will give timelines to authors when they reach out of 3 weeks for the developmental edit, 3 weeks for you to make your adjustments and get the manuscript back to me, and then 3 or 4 weeks for the line edit, depending on how long the manuscript is. And then again, another 2 weeks for line edits, and then again for copy edit, 3 weeks, and then again for them to go through it and then proofread. So you're looking at a good amount of time depending on how many editing services you're looking for, how many editing services your manuscript needs. So long story short, reach out to an editor when you know you want to work with one and when you have a rough idea of when you could do that. Reach out, even if you tell them where you're at in your process and see what they advise, that can be really helpful. I love brainstorming with authors to kind of see where they are, how many rounds of self-edits they've done, and if they've had any beta readers, if they want to do beta readers before that, and then really get that timeline. That way it's just so much easier to plan out and you're not like stressed and confused because you've already talked to an editor and you don't reach out to one too late and then you can't get in, or you have to go with someone else that you really didn't want to work with, but they were available. There's a whole lot of moving parts when it comes to getting your book ready for publication. Next question is, how do I know what type of editing I need? To be fully honest, you probably need a developmental edit, especially if this is your first book. Just save yourself the trouble and start with a developmental edit right off the bat. You're going to learn so much from the developmental memo, from the comments on the manuscript, from the questions and the feedback that your editor gives you that you can take into every story you write after, that starting with a developmental edit, like I said, especially if it's your first story, is going to pay dividends in the future of your writing career. You want to start with a developmental edit. The next one is line edits, and that is phrasing, paying attention to the flow and the word choice of the story. And then you get into copy edits. And then the final one is proofreads. So full honesty here, I worked on 2 manuscripts where we started with line edits. I was new, okay? So I take responsibility for this. I should have known when I looked at the excerpts. You only know what you know when you know it, and then you learn things, okay? So on one of them, I started with line edits, like I said, and I ended up including a short memo on developmental feedback because it really needed to be looked at. The character arcs were incomplete. There were like wild reactions to things, and this worked well. I didn't do any comments on the manuscript like I do in developmental edits, none of that, but just a really short memo of big things that in my editor soul of soul cannot, just because I'm not getting paid for a developmental edit, I can't not bring this up to the author. So I obviously lost time and money, and I didn't, like I said, it didn't get all of the chapter by chapter breakdown that I do, but I made main points of what to focus on while I was line editing. And it worked. It worked really well. I have now worked on 3 of this author's book. And at this point, we always start at the developmental level. I always do the developmental, and then we go into line, and then we do copy, and then we do proofreads. So the second one, I got 20 pages in, and there were too many things that weren't adding up, and there was too much. There was too much happening on the story level for me to do it justice on the line level. And so the second one, I ended up emailing the author and told them that I wasn't able to do the line edit. And I asked them if they wanted me to just switch and do a developmental edit on it instead. And they said, yes, that would be great. And so I went back and did the developmental edit. So I really suggest, especially if this is your first story, I really suggest going with a developmental edit. Having an editor's eyes on it is so helpful. If you can't afford a full developmental edit, which will be a developmental memo, which breaks down chapter by chapter, feedback, character arcs, plot, pacing, also with a developmental edit has comments and suggestions within the manuscript using track changes. If you can't do as in-depth, if you can't afford a full developmental edit, at least get a manuscript assessment. That does not include the chapter by chapter breakdown, and it does not include the manuscript comments, but it will tell you what is working, what needs help, what to lean into, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, all of that kind of stuff. So if you can't afford a full developmental edit, definitely at least do a manuscript assessment. Okay, this next question is fun. So do you have any tips for writing Yearning? Ooh, I now want to know what their book is about, of who's yearning for who. I need to know. So when you're writing Yearning, I come across too many books where they just immediately magically have a connection, and there's nothing wrong with it. Love at first sight, this, that, and the other. I know it happens. I just feel like it happens maybe too often at this point. So when writing Yearning, slow burn, all of that, there has to be a reason for why they can't have it. There has to be a reason why he can't have her, why she can't have him. Someone would die, their enemies, there's a blood oath, there's a promise, there's a family legacy at stake. Something keeps them apart. It can't just be he doesn't communicate. It has to be a good damn reason for it to really be yearning and not just a hesitation. He's not making a move because he doesn't want to, or because he's second guessing her feelings, or this, that, or the other. There has to be a really deep rooted reason why they can't have what they can't have. If there isn't a good reason for the yearning, it becomes annoying because they could be together, but they choose not to, or there's a lack of communication. I realize that you have to do some kind of something in the books, and sometimes a lack of communication or confusion or something like that, sometimes that works. But when it is a very obvious conversation that people would have and you just leave it out to try to create it, you're just going to annoy people. It's just going to be really frustrating. So there has to be more to the yearning than just miscommunication. The second thing about yearning is it needs to be brought into the really small scenes. It's like, think of yearning as spider webs in the corner of a haunted mansion. They're there. It's there. The yearning is there, but it's not right in front of your face. The spiders are not right in front of your face. The cobwebs are up in the corners. You're walking around the mansion. You're doing good, but you can see it out of the corner of your eye. He notices small things about her. She notices small things about him. He pauses before he talks. His hand stays a little too long. He looks at her a little too long. It's the little things in the scenes that really bring the yearning into reality and give the readers that sense of, oh God, he wants to say something, but he can't, or he wants to touch her and kiss her, but he can't. It's the little spider webs in the corner of the haunted mansion. Okay. And then the third thing that I will say about yearning, when done correctly, you interrupt moments. So a sentence incompleted, someone walking in, their thoughts drifting, like them not finishing their full thoughts. He says one thing to her, he thinks half of the truth, but we don't get to finish it because he's interrupted by a knock on the door or something. There's nothing that makes me want to throw books more than when something is about to be said and I see that fucking M dash ruining my night. It makes me so angry, but it's so good when it is not overdone, when it makes sense, when it is not just for the plot, when you don't just throw it in there just because, but really with interrupted moments, really make them count. Make them count. So those are the three things with yearning. There has to be a really good reason why they can't have it. You have to bring it into the small scenes and interrupt important moments if you can and it makes sense. Okay, the fourth question. I love that someone is curious about the book I'm writing. So are you going to tell us what your book is about? And I want to, but I am hesitant. I didn't share it in my first vlog because, like I said, I really didn't have enough of it. I had little bits and pieces here and there. I wasn't really sure how it was all going to come together. And now I really have a pretty solid idea of the story, of the beginning, the end, the small scenes that are happening in between, how we're going to get there, how things are going to connect, this, that, and the other. But I don't know. And I know people do it, but it worries me. And it worries me more because I saw a video of an author or of a writer. I'm not sure if this book is published, if she has a book published. I don't know. I'm not sure. I really wish I had saved it or something. But I saw a video, I think on TikTok, because that's usually where I am, where I guess she shared what her book was about. And you might know this if you're like on TikTok and stuff. It might be like a big thing and I just don't know about it. I just watched this one video. But she shared what her book was about. And I guess a guy put it into AI and had ChatGPT or whatever write it, and like he was posting, like I guess he emailed her and messaged her and was making posts about how like she should read it because it's really good and like she would like it if she just read it and whatever. And I just am confused. I'm confused. What do you mean? What do you mean? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I will say there are books within the book. So there's 3 stories within the main story. I'm leaning towards magical realism at this point. I'm not going to go full fantasy based on the female main character and everything else that I have planned. That would just change it way too much. But yeah, so 3 books within the main book. Female main character. There will be a bit of romance. I don't think I'll make it the full thing because that's not the main focus, but it will be there. And yeah, all I can say, I don't know. I'm really nervous about sharing too many details. One, them getting put into AI and or someone stealing it, even though obviously it wouldn't be the same story because it's mine and no one else could write this story. No one else could write this story the way I'm going to write this story. So there's that, which I think is true for how a lot of authors write their book. I can't write The Night Circus the way Erin Morgenstern wrote The Night Circus. And Erin Morgenstern couldn't write Throne of Glass the way that Sarah J. Maas wrote Throne of Glass. So I don't know. Maybe as I have about, I won't even tell you because the Zero Draft vlog is coming out. So hopefully that will be out next week. Hopefully I get a good amount of updates and stuff in there. I've been making progress. I've written about 4 days, which I know is not a lot in a month, but I'm piecing 3 books into one. Okay. Give me a break. But yeah, so I have been working on it. I just haven't been filming much of it. So I just need a little bit more for the vlog. So yeah, happy Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in to Chats and Chapters. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions that you want, I might try to do Q&As every month, every other month. We'll see how many questions I get. But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I can answer them in the next one. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for asking about my book. I'm so excited and I will see you in the next one.